God, this is kind of exciting. I mean, we've done this a few times on another adventure, but now it's like completely different. And I never saw myself doing this like a thing for me, but it seems like this is what's coming up. So I am gonna do it.
This is fine. Are you understanding now why we couldn't do it together? You needed to have your own show. Because
Mm,
I was thinking about the other day, I'm like, I see myself going on podcasts, but I do not see myself having a
we'll
podcast.
see.
Like it's not
Right.
something that I want to do all that
We'll
much,
see. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's something that I like to participate in. Like I would go on many podcasts. I love it. But
I mean,
like having my own one, it's I don't know. It's not I don't know. It's not in my vision.
welcome to my conversation. I don't think this is a podcast. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah,
To me, it's like a
yeah.
conversation. So I am very grateful that you're here. I'm very grateful that you accepted my invitation. But in the meantime,
Let's start over if
oh
you
my
want.
God, let's start over again. For the
Yeah,
what number is this? Can you hear me well, by the way?
yeah.
Okay. Hello.
Hello.
We are like minute 10,000 in here. Oh God, today's conversation involves another person because this journey of mine started off with just me ranting over different things that are happening in my life, things that I'm experiencing, things that I've learned and grown out of. Today, on the other hand, we've got my beautiful friend Ellie Laliberté, Michelle, Mish, whatever the heck you want to call yourself. I don't know, because it's the same as me. I've got so many names I've lost count. My dear friend Ellie is an entrepreneur. That's what she's been all throughout her life. See, I knew that was going to happen. And then most recently, she's wrote her second book that's being published anytime soon. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to just get on here and have a conversation about all that. So welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you. I'm so happy because I'm actually, am I the first guest on your show?
Yes, yes, you
Yes.
are.
Yay. And also, this is going to be the first time that I'm actually talking about my book being published
Nice.
because it's kind of a surprise still, but I can still speak about it a little bit, I think, now,
Okay.
ready for it. So it's a first for me to talk about it
I am
in a
so
way.
excited. I'm so excited to have you here. So let's start with the beginning, I guess. Like, I don't know what the beginning would be for you. Do you want to share a bit about your journey and how you got to where you are right now? Or are you the kind of person that forget about all the old stories? I'm just going to talk about the new in
Sure.
here.
You know, I don't feel anything in particular, so I'm just gonna, I guess, talk about what is
How you
really
came.
resonating with me right now in the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah, yeah.
because this is where we are. We are
Yes,
right now, right? So
yes,
let's stick
yeah.
to that. But I guess maybe what I can talk about is I've come from a, long healing process, I would say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's been quite a journey, and you've been on this journey with me, so that's really cool.
Yep.
And I kind of want you to continue to be on the journey with me for everything else that is unfolding in my life. So I'm happy to have you in my life. That journey, though, has been a shit ton of, I would say, roller coasters.
Yeah,
Not just one, like
yeah.
a lot. And, it's really cool because I get to see all of it in a very, very beautiful light now. Whereas while I was in it, like in the goo, I could not see the other side of it at all. Even if I would even want to envision the other side of it, like I would have seriously no idea of what it would feel like. Because I think it's not about what you're seeing on the other side, it's about how are you going to be feeling on the other side of all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've started my journey. I guess the spiritual awakening. I had a first spiritual awakening when I was 21, and then from there, I just was so interested in personal growth and even in spirituality when I started, because there's a lot of people that they're going to kind of be curious about personal growth when they begin this journey, and then they go into spirituality a little bit later on.
Mm-hmm.
I was very interested in spirituality when I started. And somehow, because I guess it wasn't that popular back then, and not we had a hard time thinking about spirituality because there's just so much, taboo, and everybody thought that it was like woo-hoo things and whatever. So for me, as a young 21-year-old, it was I didn't feel comfortable yet to speak about my spirituality and what I was discovering, but I was like, oh my God, there's so much. But I felt like I needed to hide, and I didn't
Yeah.
know who I was too. I was 21. Like, I mean, who the fuck am I? Right? So I didn't have the maturity to understand how to talk about it, how to be well in it. And so I just said, I do personal growth, and
Mm,
I love personal growth. And so because of that, I think that I got really, really interested in spirituality. And then I began to kind of like blend in a little more and go into more of like, personal growth, motivational things like, Tony Robbins and whatever. And I'm not saying that Tony Robbins is not spiritual at all. I'm just saying that, the personal growth of, yeah, motivational speakers and all of that. I, I, I decided to do that more in my 20s. But it didn't take me a long time for me to realize that, there was something that was much higher than this that was calling me, and I wanted to explore this, this passion inside of me I already knew I had. And I started writing about it already when I was in my 20s. I started journaling a lot. And that's my writing journey has been about. I started writing when I was actually younger than 20. I started writing love songs. I was this romantic when I was young. I'm still this romantic, but I was like, I had many boyfriends and many heartbreaks, and I would write songs about all of that. And so I was already, writing a lot, and I loved it. But when I began my spiritual journey, I had this inclination in starting to write about my feelings, because this is
mm,
what you do when you're in spirituality and in personal growth. You need to kind of like investigate the shit out of yourself. So the best way to do it, and for me, because I loved it, was I just started journaling again,
mhm,
right? And so I journal every single day, and I'm still journaling, by the way, every single day. And it just came to me where I just started to be really inspired by my own thoughts and my own feelings and my own writing. And so it became just like a lifestyle, I would say. And so that's why I was very interested after a while to write a first book. That was back in 2018. No, I actually wrote the book in 2017, and it got published in 2018.
well,
And so, yeah, and then back then I was 27. Again, still thought I was very spiritual. I was spiritual, actually. Like, I think I was at that point, but I was not. I was missing something
mm,
for
mhm,
sure. But, whatever the stage I was in, this is where I needed to be. And it's where I needed to be as well in order for me to be able to write that book, which
mhm.
was a really cool book. And I wish that it would have done better at that time, but everything does happen for a reason. And when that book came out, I actually had a second spiritual awakening
That's
because I
what
kind of
happens,
lost
right?
everything.
Yeah, it's like we think that okay, something happens, we go through a spiritual awakening and that's it, but it's not. It's different levels, different
Oh,
layers. So I
yeah.
imagine that was that. And a lot of people when they go through the first one, it's like, oh, this is bliss. This is cool. I can do this all my life. And then dark night of the soul starts slapping you in the face. So it makes sense. Like when you got a book published, I imagine
Yeah.
your mind, your ego self was like at the upper limit, right? Like Gay Hendricks would describe. You got to a sort of an upper limit and more expansion was needed. And then
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like, I didn't decide to lose everything. It's
Mhm.
life was just like, okay, it's time for you to grow the shit out of yourself now. So I'm just gonna make you lose everything that you know and put you in a position where, you gotta step it up. And
so what
so,
happened? What happened at the time? What do you mean by losing
um,
everything?
so at the age of 30, I lost my business. I had a business with my ex-husband. I was with this person for 12 years.
Hmm.
And we had created a business together. And after a year and a half, although I knew that it was going to shit way more than way before than a year and a half. But yeah, you know, when you want to fight to keep something alive,
Mhm,
sometimes you can't.
mhm.
It can't. It has to fall, you know. And I was not getting that, so life just said, "Well, I guess you're not getting pictures, so I'll just do it for you." And so yeah, shit hit the fan. I lost the business. I lost my marriage. And again, it's not me that left because, yeah, when you're in, I guess when you're in patterns and habits, you don't know how to deal with some things. And you're also very blinded. And I was very blinded at how unhappy I was at
Mm,
that point. And I
mhm,
just wanted to keep everything, I wanted to keep control of everything, right?
mhm.
So universe just said, no, you're going to stop trying to keep control of everything. And I'm the one who's in control. And I'm going to take away the things that don't serve you anymore. So yeah, I lost my marriage and not because I'm the one who left, but because it had to happen in a very drastic way for me to say, oh, I guess
But if you
now it's
think about it,
over.
if you think about it from a higher self perspective, because you said it wasn't you that left, but it was you that left.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
it was.
because your other part of yourself that was like, this is not serving you anymore. I am gonna pull yourself away. I'm gonna pull you away from this one way or another. So
Exactly. So it was, I guess it was my higher self that was left. It had already left a long time ago.
yes.
So yeah, so anyways, that's what happened then. And so the funniest thing is that my book came out, got because it took a year for my book to be published. The process of editing it and everything that the publishing house was taking a long time, which was because they were a really big publishing house. And so by the time that it came out, like it was exactly in the time where I started from scratch. Everything was, I was in the unknown. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I needed to seriously just start over again. And I didn't have the energy, I think, at that time to push that book. You know, I was in survival mode. So that was my process. I needed to figure out my life really, really quickly. And so I just built a new business from that place. But then, you know, life
So
is
what did
really
you
good at
build? Tell us a little
what? Sorry.
tell us a little bit about that part. What did you build when you were at that stage? Because I know what.
Oh, when I was as that, actually, I didn't even know what I was going to build. It just came to me really quickly because I guess I didn't have a choice, but it became something that I really loved for a while. And it was a Airbnb business. So I just took my house that I needed to pay my mortgage. And so I needed to find a solution. And then I remembered that I had taken a management course for Airbnb because yes, back then there were some people that were giving courses to do this, to know how to manage other people's Airbnbs. And so I thought I'd do it with my own place.
Yeah.
And it just really went well. Like it rented like this after 2 weeks. And thank God, thank God it did because I seriously don't know what I would have done back then. But yeah, that's what happened with that business. And that's how I started. And then when I saw that my house was going really well, I said, well, shit, I'm gonna go and see other people instead of having them have, long-term rentals. I said, why don't they do this? It's so much more, there was so much more money to be made
Mhm.
and less headache in a way if you have someone that manages for you
Yeah.
your own place. So I did that and that really flowed and everything was really flowing well because back then, because I was on survival mode, I seriously did not give a shit. Like I just needed to, do something and I was like, okay, let's, I was letting the universe take care of me. I didn't know that at that time, but now I realize that that's what I was doing unconsciously. Was just I had no choice, right? So that's what happened. And then that business went on for quite a long time, for about 6 years. It's still in the runnings, but it's, I've decided to shut it down.
Hmm.
And that was a big decision for me, but it's also a very logical decision because it has not been calling me for the last year. So it's time to just let it go, but it's okay. It's a beautiful ending, and I am so excited about where I'm going with my new adventures with my books. So
I love that. I love that. Like
yeah,
so far, I mean, it's so interesting because I heard this story many times, but every time it's like, just listening to people's journey and how they got to where they are and how they're flourishing in their life at the moment. It's just, it's just like, oh.
yeah.
So where are you right now? What's happening in your life right now?
So right now I am back in my hometown, and that was a surprise to me. I didn't think I was going to do that, but circumstances made it so that I do come back here. And I guess I have some unfinished business, and probably it has, like, I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, why am I back here? Because I had systems of coming back.
I'm gonna have to make a bracket in here because it's so crazy. Like I've known for a while, like our paths are similar in some ways since we kind of been in each other's lives, right? But
Yeah.
this thing with being back in your hometown, okay, I'm not back in my hometown, but I'm somewhere where I've lived before, where I thought I would never come back. Like I thought my days in living in this town are gone. I'm just gonna be somewhere else. And I hear you say, why am I back here? That's exactly the question that I ask myself. Why am I back here? What is it that I have not learned yet? Because I believe that there's the reason behind everything that happens always. There's a lesson that hasn't been learned somehow. So it's so funny hearing you say that you're asking yourself the same question. What is it? Why am I back here again? So
Yeah.
there's my bracket. Close the bracket.
But it's funny because I connected some dots, and I don't know if that's the truth, but this is what I've been feeling. And I mean, we always have more clarity after a while.
After,
And
yes.
so I believe that the reason I had to come back is to properly close down a part of me that I started here, right? So my
Chapter, yeah.
business that I had, I
Yeah, yeah.
started here, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it makes sense to me that I would be closing it while I am here.
Wow.
So that
Wow.
I can do it in a better energy than when I started it, because that business was never going to be sustainable in a way, because I started that business in a survival mode. So I do believe that when you start something from an energy of black, you can't
Mm-hmm.
expect that that thing is going to be sustainable, because you're always going to be in the same energy, wanting it to always survive. So I always wanted, throughout these years, I wanted my business to survive. It was always about that. And as much as the business went well for, a couple of years, I was always fighting to keep it alive.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it was not the business that I was trying to keep alive. You know, it was it was a version of myself that created that business that I
Oh,
wanted to keep alive. But it
gold.
was like, oh my God, I'm done with that version of me. Of course, the business is going to die. And so the business is actually dying before I was, actually dying of that version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was not happening, I swear to you, I don't think I could have written the book that I've written. Like, I don't believe that that could have come to me the way that it
Mm-hmm.
came if I was not at this position that I was when I received that book.
Yeah.
Because I needed to be in a space of surrender completely, of like, okay, I am letting go completely of that part of me that has been fighting and wanting to keep things alive, and chasing
Yeah.
things and chasing people too. And, all of the striving person or personality, whatever.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting because like knowing what we know and how we deal with how we see things, right? In general, there's so much gold in that, because of the letting go part, but also knowing that when you let go of something old, something new, you make room for something new all the time. It's not like your I am is dying. It's part of your mind, right? It's part of our minds, part of our egos, part of our personalities that we've created around this whatever persona that we are, that we think we got to hold on really tight to because
Yeah.
otherwise who are we? And and magic comes after. So we got to the book part. Okay, tell us about your book. Tell us. I know, it's so good. It's so good. Go, go, go.
Well, that book came to me. First of all, I had no idea that I was going to write a second book,
Mm-hmm.
because when I wrote my first book 10 years ago, I wrote it with the intention that I just wanted to write a book. Back then, I was like 27, and I didn't have the maturity that I have today. So I think that when I had the intention of writing a book, it was mostly because it was for me, right? It was kind of like, oh, it's a dream for me to write a book because I was inspired so much by so many authors that I loved, and it was like, oh my God, I want to do that too, right? And so I accomplished something back then, and I accomplished that goal, I guess, of having a book out there published, right? And it really happened quickly too back then. But that was, and again, I didn't have the energy to put any focus on that book and push it and whatever. So I do believe that back then was, I wrote a book and that's it. And I'm happy about that. And now I'm just gonna, I have this business now that I have to run. And I don't have time to write another book. And after a while, I had people that read that book and was like, when are you gonna write your second book and blah blah blah? Like, we want to have a second one, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know. And at a certain point, I seriously thought, like, I'm never going to write another book because I didn't have that. I wasn't inspired at all. And I didn't even know what to write about too. And, it's just like, for me, it felt like a lot of work just because I had no inspiration. And I can say that I've tried. At one point, I had tried to write a second book. It's really funny because when I did that thing where I was like, okay, now I'm ready to write a second book, and I started it, I swear to you, I lost everything. All of it. Like, I can't find it anywhere in my laptop. It is the weirdest thing. It just disappeared. And at that point, I was like, well, there you go. The universe doesn't want me to write a second book, so I'm just going to not do it and not try again, right? So, yeah, I had given up a little bit on the idea. And so it was really unexpected for me to write another book. And it just happened randomly. Well, no, it wasn't random, but I guess I was so connected to myself and so much in the surrender mode and like not caring about anything about my future. I guess I needed to get to that point where I was like really, in the unknown, and just being like, I'm going to take this time, which was 2 weeks of solitude with myself that I had not had in a couple of months, and it was very needed. When I said, okay, I have those 2 weeks, what am I doing? I'm not doing shit. I'm barely going out. I'm gonna isolate myself and just meditate my life away because this is what I need. I need to be with me and just reconnect and be okay with just being with me, not thinking about circumstances, not thinking about what the hell's going on in my life, what I don't know, what I'm trying to figure out. I can't figure out anything. I wanted just to be present. And so I got really, really, really present. And then, just had this insight was, hey, you got another book to write, and this is the title, and this is the way you're going to write it.
Wow.
And it was like,
okay.
Wow. Okay. So me thinking that those 2 weeks, I would not do shit. I actually was doing a lot, but I was still very isolated, and I needed that time to be by myself and be alone, and because I needed that concentration and that openness.
Wow.
And so, I wrote the book within a month because I was so, had so much time. And it was just the most wonderful experience because it was not like the first time I wrote my other book. It was really different in the sense where I had no idea how I was even going to start this book. I just knew that I needed to write it in a particular way. And that felt really good to me. And I understood why now, like why it felt good to me back then. I wasn't aware of why it felt really good to me, but like if people don't know, so the book is made up of 20 letters. And all of the letters are read as if your higher self is speaking directly to you. So it's kind of really cool because what I figured
this is gonna work for this. Oh, gotta have some of those.
Thank you. So what I figured out is that I am a person who loves to write letters. Like in my life, I've written, I don't know how many letters to people and to, exes and whatever. And I just love writing letters. And so it was very natural to me to do it this way. And it also was very poetic in a way because I am an artist as well, right? So it's a part of me that came out of these letters was also my artist
Mm-hmm.
uh, self. And so I really love the flow of it. And also, like this time around, I'm kind of like, this is awesome because it has nothing to do with me. You know, the book has nothing to do with my personal life. It doesn't have anything to do with my experiences. If you do, when you do read it though, you're gonna, you know, put dots together and you're gonna see that like I did go through a lot of what I do speak of. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not speaking about my specific experience. It's really about you. Like when you're reading this book, I want people to feel as if this book is about them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and this is why it might be triggering for people and it may shake them up. Some people might feel like it's bullshit and just close it. And I don't know how people are going to react. And I'm excited also about that. But yeah, I'm having a really great time with it.
Isn't that
Sorry.
the great part of it? Of if it triggers people, from my perspective, it's a good thing, right? It's
Mhm.
never a bad thing because it's just showing you where you're not free yet, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're doing that, you're doing your job perfectly. No
Yeah,
offense.
I think that this is exactly why I love the process of even writing the book because I was getting almost triggered myself when I
Wow.
reread, I was rereading my letters, right? And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, this is really raw. Like I'm like, I don't know what this could come out. And then I'm like, no, fuck that
Mhm.
shit. Like I want it. And even like I would reread some letters and I would bawl. I'm
Mm,
like, oh my God, I'm crying because now I was thinking about like, you know, my own experiences.
yes, I
So
know it.
it was very interesting. You know, I know for sure that this was downloaded, right? It wasn't just me writing a book to have fun with it, whatever. It's something that was important. I knew it was important, and that process of, you know, making it public was, I had a different intention this time, and I
So
knew it.
what's so what's happening? What's the process right now? Where are you with it? And what's to come, by the way?
Okay, so when I was done with it, or almost done with it, I wanted to find a publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to make sure this time around too that the publisher would really care about my book and would have it to heart as much as I would have it to heart because I didn't want to put it in just anybody's
Mm-hmm.
hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I found someone really quickly, and I had a really good intuition about her. I was also, although I was not ready just yet. I kind of, you know, I let it sink in. And once I don't know, again, I guess I just let it go because I didn't have a choice. You know, it wasn't something, again, it had nothing to do with me. So I couldn't be in this place where I wanted to control when it was going to be published,
Mm-hmm.
when it was going to come out. I really wanted to, again, to let that not be about me. And so that's what happened. I had no expectation of when it would come out. I kind of had an intuition that it would come out this year, but I didn't really care when.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool because I kind of really let it go. That was back in February. When the time was right, I knew that something would call me and it would have to be that timing. Like I knew that. And
Mm-hmm.
at one point back in April, I was getting a lot of synchronicities. It was insane about it. You know, just it's kind of like this voice was telling me, like, okay, it's time. Okay, you need to do it now. And I was like, well, no, I can't do it now. I don't know how. Like this, where and who's gonna, you know, help and blah blah blah. And I just, you know, my limited self was trying again to put kind of these,
Limits.
yeah, I think it was about like it's the upper limit again, right? That was
Mm-hmm.
coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out of my own way, and there's something that's gonna happen that will make this happen, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not me that's gonna make it happen. So
So when is it getting published then? Do you have a date or do you have a
I do not have a specific date. It is in my publisher's hands right now, though, and
okay.
the process is we're in the process of it, and it's very exciting.
Wow.
But yeah, we're aiming for August.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
All right. Oh
aiming
my
for
God.
August. It's going to be in mini format, so it's going to be an audiobook version on Audible. It's going to be in paperback and hardcover, and in Kindle version as well.
Oh my God. So are you doing the Audible, by the way? That would be great.
We have decided that it was best if it was someone who is very experienced in doing that, because
Oh.
again, this is not about me, and I'm not experienced enough, and I really want this book to go well.
Oh my God, this is so crazy because
So,
in my head, you're a singer, right? And you're a really good singer too, which we haven't spoken about at all. But when you said artist, that's what you meant artist, right?
yeah,
Because artist
yeah,
anyway. But it's so interesting to me to hear that you're not gonna read it. But
yeah.
I understand when you said it's not about you, it
It's
makes a
not
lot of
about me.
sense. It makes a lot
Exactly.
of sense. Yeah.
So I wanted to detach a lot of things that had to do with me. At the beginning, I had an intuition that maybe I could do it myself, but
Mhm.
then I detached that. Like I detached from that because, yeah, I don't want to get myself, my personal self, involved too much in it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
that way.
yeah.
And I would be very hard on myself. If I was to do that myself, I
Mm-hmm.
would be extremely, extremely hard on myself, and the process would not go anywhere. I swear to you.
Mm.
So, so no, I know that it's the reason why I'm not doing it. And I'm not saying at one point in my life I'm not going to do it with maybe another book, but
Yeah.
this first book I want it to be really well done, but in all of the ways. And so I'm listening as well. I'm being coached also with this publishing company, which is awesome. And so I don't want to make all of the decisions on my own. I want to trust the process. Yeah.
It sounds like a full co-creative process.
Yes,
You know,
it
it's
is.
besides it being higher self and you and intuition and whatever, it's people on the outside of you and
Yeah.
allowing it to be
Yes,
a
exactly.
teamwork
I see this
process.
book as just so much more. I see it as like, yeah, actually having a team around it, and
Mhm.
um, just everybody being creative with it, and giving their feedback, and
Yeah.
I've been having really great feedback from my publisher too, which is really awesome. I'm excited because like that is close to my heart, because
Mhm.
again, it's not about the way that I did it. It's the way that I've received it, right? And it's always just a confirmation.
I'm
Yeah,
very excited too.
I'm
I
going to
mean,
be promoting it soon.
yeah, I mean, you've shared, I think you shared one little bit on Facebook a few days ago or something, and I was like,
Yeah,
so I'm saying this now, whoever's gonna get their hands on it, it's not gonna be, oh, I don't like this, I'm gonna close it. It's gonna be, oh my God, this is opening my mind so much because, and it's not just that, but your heart, it's so interesting because reading it, I can tell it's not Mish in there. Reading
no,
those parts, I can tell it's not your ego wanting to get in the way. It's literally something that's been channeled because it's so good. It's so good. And I've only had like a little snippet out of it. So I don't even know what else is gonna be in there, but I'm excited about it for
yeah,
sure.
I'm excited too. And it's just, the funniest thing is happening too, because I feel like right now I'm in the process of like getting ready. I know it sounds weird.
Getting
I'm
ready
in
to
the
be ready, right?
process, kind of like getting ready and in preparation process of like when this is going to come out, how the people are going to be receiving that,
Mm,
and then how I am going to be receiving maybe opinions of other people, and the way,
mm,
like this is something that I know it sounds crazy, but I believe there's such a thing as getting ready emotionally and just spiritually, really, to whatever could happen,
mhm,
and
mhm.
not making it about any specific kind of thing. I don't know. Again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a thing about not knowing what
Yes.
can happen with this book, right? Which is
Yeah.
again not for me.
Mhm,
It's really to serve. And when I was talking about, the intention that I had the first time and the intention I have this time around, what the difference is that I am getting in this time that this is bigger than me. So
mhm,
this book is not about me because it is bigger. And it's to help as many people as I wish that, I would
mhm,
wish that people would be open to it.
mhm.
Uh, And back then, 10 years ago, I kind of really didn't, not that I didn't care how many people it would reach, but I didn't put any uh, attention on it so much because I don't believe that I had that maturity developed enough yet. And this time it's kind of like, no, no, no. I would love for this book to be in thousands of people's hands, and not because I want to be recognized and I want to be known or whatever. I want that book to be known though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's about that, right? Because
You
I,
recognize
I
the
see the
value.
value in it
Yeah,
big time.
yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure it's gonna impact people in such a lot of ways.
It might impact in the most beautiful ways, and then it might impact as well in the most challenging ways
Mm,
for people.
mm-hmm.
I just actually, not too long ago saw a post from someone. I'm not going to name his name because he had a lot of negative comments about his post,
Mm,
but he's very well known in the industry, very wise, and very connected. And he made this post not too long ago. And when I saw the post, it was a video. I understood everything, and I was like, wow, this is really beautiful. But there was an intuition in my head that knew that he would get bombarded by people that would not
mm,
understand where he's coming from
mm-hmm.
and just criticize the shit out of him. And he lost like a lot of followers because of that video. And it was kind of like very inspiring to me in a way, because the way that he handled it after was beautiful as well. And it kind of made me feel like, if my book is received in that way from people who don't understand it, that could happen as well to me, right? And so I was like, I'm seeing this right now because it's me getting ready for anything that could happen,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that my book has a lot of difficult truth to accept in them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And wherever you're going to be, receiving it from, I mean, from whichever filter that you have during that time, it might really trigger, like we were talking about, it might really trigger you, and you might, lash out like this and want to give your opinion. And so I was like, okay, so this could happen.
It's
I
so
don't
in
know.
it's so interesting because you said that this guy lost a lot of following, right? And in my head, I had straight away, I had this thing that I read in Illusions by Richard Bach. If you had like if you have an audience of a lot of people, and you speak your truth, because that was the point. You speak your truth, whichever way that is, because we all have our own little way of perceiving the world, and nobody's listening. Would you still believe in your truth? And he said yes. He said
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's one person or no people whatsoever. I don't care. I'm
yeah,
just being me and staying true to my own authentic self. So I
exactly.
feel like even if, for this person that you just said, and if it happens to you, does it matter that much that
Yeah,
people take it a certain way or take it another way? Or, are you just doing it because, like you said, it's just for whatever
it's
higher
for
purpose?
Yeah, and exactly. And that's exactly, I was also having that, I was seeing that as well, where it's like, but it's not about them, and it's not about him either, right? It's about something that's much higher and much bigger. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
because, again, maybe it's making room though
Mm,
for other people to come in that
mhm,
were like,
mhm,
wow, I didn't know this about that person or whatever, right? And also, these people that are not receiving it right now, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to remember and then be like, oh, that's what he meant back
mhm,
then. And I was
mhm.
freaking out about it. Now I see. And so these people could come back, so it's not about losing anybody in that sense, right? Yeah, it's just, I guess it's just a process. And again, it's part of the awakening of society. And it's going to start a lot with, I feel it's starting with fear and anger, because people are realizing that there's something that is boiling inside of them, even though they're seeing it outside, it's really inside that it's happening. So for sure, there's going to be, well, it already started, right? So there's so much chaos right now in the world that I don't really look at that much, and it's not because I want to ignore it. It's just that I really love my little world, and I want to stay
Mm.
most that I can connected to that part of me. But I'm also seeing the beauty in what's happening right now in the world. And I do talk about that in my book too, where,
Mm.
you know, it's really beautiful when you can see the beauty in the ugly, right? And understand the purpose.
I don't know what we were talking about.
Well, no, I was just explaining how right now, you know, this is what's happening, is that there's a lot of chaos going outside of us. But that at one point, you know, people need to come to realize that they can see the beauty in this chaos, even though it hurts a lot. It's
I
the
mean,
same thing as when we go into our darkness. And this is, you know, this is exactly why I could write the book that I wrote, because I went into my darkness, and for
yes.
many years.
Oh my God,
For
that's
many
so,
years.
that is, there's so much truth in that, because I feel like even though we say that this chaos is on the outside, like we see all this chaos happening outside of us, it's just the restructuring of everything internal. You know, it's everything that we're all going through on a personal basis, that is just showing us where we are internally. And
Yeah,
it's so funny that you're saying that, because of course we're all mirrors to each other and we're all reflecting each other. And I liked what you said about staying in your own bubble somewhat, because you know, as much as you don't want to turn your back completely to everything that's happening outside of you, that might be not so much light, you know, it's a lot of darkness. You cannot help anybody out of that's in a hole by going in the hole with them, right?
yeah, exactly.
So holding on
Yeah,
to your own light and your own bubble. Yeah.
yeah, and I seriously do believe that this person that I was talking about earlier this is exactly what he was trying to say to people, you know.
Mm,
But the way that people are perceiving these things, they're taking it very personal, because
mm,
they're still in the, unfortunately, there's way too many people in the victim consciousness right now, which is something that is, I feel like, you know, the with the vibration of the planet that's just at its at all-time high right now, this is going to fall on its own quicker than we think.
and rise.
And
Rise.
people are going to realize that they don't need to stay in that victim consciousness, right? But now it's like it's just a matter of having that self-awareness that's where some people are, and it's the reason why it hurts so goddamn much when they're looking outside of themselves and seeing all of this chaos too, right? Because they're taking it so personally, right? But yes, the ugly, the beauty in the ugly, it comes when you actually, yeah, you realize that it's not about you being mad at the world.
Mm,
You know, there is something, I believe anyways, and because I reflect with my own self and my own darkness, that has nothing to do with, you know, wars and all of that. There's an internal war inside of all of us, and it
definitely.
has to start from there. It has to start with us being able to just go and forgive a lot of things about our past,
Hmm.
which means and ancestors, which means parents, which means even ourselves, from, you know, being caught up in all of that and never getting out of it, and just keep on giving excuses to stay in there.
Yep.
It's very, very shocking and very unpleasant to go do that work. Very difficult on the ego. And this is the reason why I wrote that book, because I want people to see how much the ego is just fucking controlling so much, you know? And so it's kind of like getting out of, basically just having a lot of compassion for ourselves, because we've been so blinded for so long. You know, the
Hmm.
lies, they start there. They start from a very early on age. And even though we want to blame everyone, the politics or whatever that's outside of us, like,
It
this
all
is
starts
more
within.
important to be dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that inner child that is screaming at you is more important to be held right now, and
Hmm.
to be understood and to be seen,
Mm.
so that you can actually go and make space to receive light and stop seeing the darkness outside of you, and participate in that, and feel like you have to also participate in it, and
Mm.
have your have that righteousness and say what you need to say and whatever, right? It's
I feel like the only way
part of the journey.
the only thing that we can do to help with that darkness is to see it within ourselves. You know, every time we bring light into a part of ourselves that's full of darkness, because that's all that the exterior is reflecting, right? It's something that's inside of us. Like, how can we transmute that, right? How can we alchemize it inside of us? Because then you're not going to see it as much on the outside. And it is, I feel like I feel like we're at the point in history where a lot of people are waking up, and the more people wake up, the more it helps bring the energy of the whole planet up.
Mm-hmm. And the more that we're going to be very sensitive to what the hell is going outside, because now things are being shook up naturally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's again, it's the same thing as when you go inside of yourself. When you live on this, in this reality where, you're not affected by that much, you think that you're not affected by much because you're not interested in yourself,
Mm.
in that part of you, right? Yeah, you're going to be in a comfort zone for a long time.
Mm.
And then when shit hits the fan,
You kind of
like
don't do it anymore.
you're going to have a lot of shit coming up, and it won't have to do with anything that's coming outside of you.
Mm.
It's going to be really hard to deal with because you're being triggered by what's coming outside, like what you're observing outside of you, and you're not understanding why it's triggering you so much. So when you do get that self-awareness and you realize that, holy shit, like everything that's outside of me is actually triggering something that's inside of me that has been seen, that has been hidden for so long, that is where you realize, like, wow, okay, I'm very unhappy. And that's not fun to know that you're very unhappy, right? It's very difficult for the ego to admit that. And so doing that work, it's really when you decide to do it and say, you know what, even though I know that this is going to really hurt, this is the most love that I can give myself. And I do believe, like, and I've had a conversation with one of my friends about this lately. And it's really weird because, not weird, synchronicities again, but Kyle Cease is always very aligned with me. Every time he talks about something, I'm like, yes, I was actually just thinking of this. But we had this kind of way of wanting to, I feel, hiding really profound things that we need to go see in ourselves with, unfortunately, with positivity. Back then, I would have never thought that I would say this out loud because I was so much in this personal growth development phase in my life where I was like, it's so important to stay positive and be optimistic and just say positive affirmation the most that you can and stay in the feeling good the most that you can. And because this is what we were told to do in a sense, right, by many spiritual speaker, and there is truth in that, and I do believe that there's much truth in that. What I'm realizing right now is that before you can actually have that being very sustainable in your life and living from that higher place, in order to be able to be in a higher space, in a higher frequency, you need to let go of the shit that is very dense and very low and very low vibration. You can't pile up some positive things on top of garbage.
Yep. Yes. Hell yes.
And that you don't realize this until you get to a point where life brings you to understand this. Because you don't want to see that, right? Your ego is really fucking tricky and it wants to keep you blinded by this. And so if you latch on to personal growth and positivity and all of that, and you're actually very interested in that, and this is what I believe because this is what I've experienced, right? But that ego of yours, even if you think that it's not the ego, will want you to continue to do that, to stay away from the truth, the real truth that is within you. And so now spirituality or personal growth is going to be your excuse now to not go within. It's going to be another thing that you're going to be latched on, an anchor to not go and do the real work. And that's hard to hear. And, I'm saying this to you, and I guess whoever is going to hear this, without fear, because I've
Yes.
written my book. I do speak about that in that book. It's just you get to a point where you have to surrender so much and not know shit about your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when you receive this information that is, okay, it's very important for me to go inside and go clean up what
Mm-hmm.
I have to clean up, which I don't even know. There's so much programming from my childhood. There's so much there that sometimes it's a surprise that you're even like, what? I had this in me? I
Yeah.
didn't know this. Like, what the hell? I thought I was like over this like
Yeah.
10 years ago or whatever.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, there's a deeper root to this that I didn't see. And now I have to go and clean it up. And that's fine. So you do have releases and you do that work and it hurts, but
Mm-hmm.
it's important to do it if you want to have that light come
Yeah.
inside of you and be in this higher frequency, which feels amazing, but people think that it's a high again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's another lie. It's another fucking lie that being spiritual is all about lollipops and rainbows. It is not.
I mean, there's such a thing as a spiritual ego, right? And there's such a
Yeah,
thing as spiritual
yeah,
bypassing, because this is what a
yeah.
lot of, and I can't even say anything. I don't have any judgment towards that because I
Mm.
was there. I think everybody that goes on this
Oh yeah.
journey starts that way. We
Yeah,
all start
yeah,
with, oh my God, we gotta be positive and think positive all the time. And then you slowly realize, like, hold on a minute, I can't cover
yeah,
this stuff up with all this
exactly.
positivity and then not look at what's really deeply inside of there and what's stopping me from, I don't know, maybe experiencing my true highest purpose
Yeah,
when I start going within and looking at all these things and
yeah.
feeling is the only way out is through.
There's so many stages. There's
Mhm.
so many stages, and
And you know what? Do you know
tough.
what? Because we're at this stage now, right? And we think we're at this stage and it's all fine and dandy now. And we have no clue. Like we have no clue what else is out there. Like we don't know what we don't know. And it's exciting and scary at the same time because of course I could be here and we can be having this conversation and being like, oh, but I've worked so much on myself, and I've done this so many times that I'm afraid to say it out loud now. Like, okay, I'm ready for the next level. And when you say that, then shit hits the fan again. You're like, oh, can
Yeah,
you be a bit more gentle? And I think this is what's happening lately for me anyway. I'm asking for it to be gentle. I'm like, okay, and more recently as well, because you've been speaking about like the whole healing journey, because it is a whole healing journey. I think a lot of the ego gets in the way with that too, of what else do I need to heal now, and
yeah,
you can't progress
yeah,
that. So a lot of people get stuck in the healing journey instead
yeah.
of, okay, declaring to the universe, I'm done with healing now, even though healing never stops while you're still alive. But how do I serve? What do I put out now? What do I do?
Yeah.
It's like, it's so funny. I
You're
hear
gonna
myself
heal
say,
through it anyway,
sorry.
right? You're gonna heal through that anyway.
Yes,
Whatever you're
yes,
gonna want to serve, like this
yes,
is gonna be healing again for me. Like my book that I'm putting out.
yes.
Jesus, I know that I'm going to be triggered, like
Oh
for
my God.
sure, right? And
Oh my God.
so I don't know how. I mean, I'm thinking because it never stops, but at the same time, like it's going to be good, right? While it
Yeah.
happens, it's going to be good. But what I like also wanted to say this when I was talking about the optimism and whatever, and Kyle Cease was talking about that too the other day, and I was like, oh, it's so true too. Is that we have this tendency of wanting to always, because we've gone through so many stages of spirituality and personal growth, and at one point I do believe that people think that or feel that they can't stay in their stories, right? And I seriously believe that as well. They can't stay in their stories, and they also want to get out of the density as soon as they can, because they know that they're going to just, I guess, attract to them more of it if they keep on playing in that. But again, where we're not listening to our bodies is that there is a time of preparation again for something to be completely
Sure.
healed,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so what we're doing again with spirituality or with personal growth, however you want to, say it, is that we're telling ourselves, well, I'm feeling this right now, but I know better. I
Mhm.
know not to stay there. So I'm going to go and, do some other spiritual thing to come and, get myself out of that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I don't want to stay in that, because then
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep more. So there's this thing that we're doing again, which is just putting a plaster on whatever is trying to come up and
Yes.
not feel it completely.
Yes.
So this is what I've come to understand in my, darkness, in my dark night of the soul, is that holy shit, you need to go and feel it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And your body, not you, your body will know when you felt it enough,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you can let it go.
Yeah.
But it's like Michael Singer says, like the purpose of life is to relax and release.
Mm. And see, because you're saying about feeling it fully and going through it and whatever, like your body, like you said, your body will know. You'll know when it's done, but also when you're in it, because I think the tendency of our minds is to I'm feeling this because, and the same, I've heard Carl Cease talk about it. Feeling this because, or I'm feeling this and I need to do this, and I'm feeling this, and like finding explanations or
Yeah,
ways to come out
yeah,
of it instead of I'm
exactly.
just feeling this. I'm
That's
feeling
it. Sit in
that's
it.
it. Yes, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what he's saying too. Is like people are trying to just, if they're gonna want to find another reason to not take care of it completely, not
Mhm,
go and hold that little inner child that is still speaking to them that no, 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 I'm hurt right now, and
mhm,
it's okay that that part of you is hurting.
mhm,
And that's the thing. Like, if that part of you is still hurting, it's because it hasn't been seen enough.
mhm.
So you need to go and see it completely and allow it to hurt. And once you do that, chances are it's going to stop hurting because you actually gave it attention, like a child who
Yeah.
has never been able to just cry without someone
Yes.
coming to them and say, you know what, cry as long as you want,
Yeah.
even if you don't understand it, right? Because sometimes you don't understand that. Like,
Yep.
I've had many releases, so have you. Like, we have releases and we're crying and we're like, I don't know why I'm crying right now. I know I have to cry. And so you're crying it out. And then, well, when you're done crying it out, like maybe a day after, you're going to be like, oh, that's why I needed to cry that. Now I
And
know,
sometimes even that doesn't happen. Sometimes you just
Yeah,
cry and you don't know why you're crying, and
yeah,
that's fine too. That's fine too. We
yeah,
don't
yeah,
always need to know
exactly.
why, so it makes
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense to just let.
Yeah, so anyways, I feel like this is just a journey that people need to go on and not be so hard on themselves, and
Mm,
also get out of the because we do, there is levels to this, and yes, there is the victim consciousness, but I believe that some people are getting confused with. But if we deal with it and we sit in it, aren't we in the aren't we in the victim consciousness? Aren't we being a victim right now, feeling that pain?
mhm.
And I feel that's the misconception that people are getting with personal growth, is that they've been told to not be in the victim consciousness and to get out of the victim consciousness, and so that means that they're not allowed to feel feelings, right? But there's a difference between being a victim, being in that feeling, and just complaining about that feeling.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other thing is you're in that feeling and you're seeing that feeling and you're having compassion for the pattern,
Yeah.
but you know that you're not going to continue to participate in it,
Yep.
right? But you
Yep.
can hold space for your own patterns because
Yes.
they need to be seen, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't make you a victim. That makes you caring about you, something where others couldn't do, right?
She's on fire. She's on fire, fire, fire.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This could go on forever.
it, just
This
read
could
my
go
book. I'm kidding.
That's it.
Just
Just
read
read the
the
book.
book.
Just read the book. Whenever the book comes out, we're all gonna be on it for sure.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I think this is the good place to end this. Like I said, otherwise we're gonna be here for forever and ever and ever.
yeah,
But
yeah.
oh my God. Thank you so much for being here and having
Thank
this
you.
conversation and
Yeah.
for doing whatever you do for yourself, to get to the place where you're at now. Because every it's like everybody that does the work within themselves helps the whole,
Yeah,
right? So,
exactly. And I would like to just finish on, and you know, some people sometimes they're going to be watching podcasts and things like this, and they're going to be comparing themselves
mhm,
to whoever is speaking and whoever is doing whatever, right? I do believe that there is no specific thing that people have to figure out so much to want to do to help the collective,
mhm.
as much as just, you know, go back into you, and you make that the most important thing, for you to be a light. And just by being that, that is enough. It is so enough to help the collective just get back to a higher frequency, and just be happy again, right? And
Yes.
find light.
Yes, yes. Because even that, see, even that, just going within and looking at yourself and focusing on you and your own, whatever your own is gonna bring the rest. If there's
Yeah.
something else that's in there, it's gonna come. But the same,
Yeah.
do it for yourself. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, my dear.
Thank
I
you for
can't,
having me on. I have fun
oh my,
talking about all of this. It's
yes.
been it's good practice anyways.
Yeah. See, there you go. You're more than welcome to come on my conversational, whatever this thing is, any other time. But in the meantime, thank you for being here and looking forward to
Thank you.
whenever your book is gonna come out.
I will let everybody know.
Good kisses for you.